eating really healthy and meditating. And you know, I come from a religious background, so, you know, I had that and then just my faith. Um, it was like the people that were around me we became friends. Paul Jackson Jr., the guitar player. I met Stevie uh, through Sarita. And then, you know, when I did my demos, we had, you know, Patrice was playing on it, the late Ricky Lawson, some of the horn players for James Brown. It just was, it's a melting pot. And so I think back and it's like, no big deal. These are my friends. These are my peers. These are people I hang out with. We went to Sarita, and she was married at the time. She wasn't married with Stevie. She was her second marriage. It was Curtis Robinson Jr. So we go to their home, have a barbecue. Basically, it's all vegan. Everybody, you know, after we eat, take out their instruments. We have a jam session. All these folks, you know, Gerald Albright playing on the sax, and you know, somebody Denise Williams would come through. And just was that kind of environment, and that's what I knew. And I really believe it has a lot to do with who I am. You know, my parents taught that. You know, people used to say, well, you know, you can't make it in this business. No way. Because it's who you know. That's how you're going to get over. And I used to say, I know, you know, because of where my faith is, you know, I know who I need to know, because who I know is going to help to attract all the people that I need to be attracted to or need to come be attracted to me in order to get out there. And that's exactly what happened. You know, it was an amazing time. An amazing time.
Cherie, when I think about you and Patrice Rushen and Jeff Lorber and Dugu Chancellor, I think of you as the masters of fusion. You mastered R&B and jazz in a way that was able to bring it to radio. And so youngsters like me, hence, you know, growing up in Altadena, California, were able to get that vibe and, you know, take it to another level and, you know, be able to, you know, have shows and do shows. And, you know, as I wanted to be a singer, that didn't work out so well. So I decided a broadcaster would help out and would assist me in staying towards my heart and soul of music. And you're a big part of that. Could you talk a little bit about Shakanaka, the word? Did I say it right?
Yes. So you said it right, Shakanaka. You said it right. So what happened in, I guess, was the early 2000s, my late in-laws, my late mother and father-in-law, they made a trip to Zimbabwe and Kenya, different places, different countries in Africa. But when they went to Zimbabwe, they were introduced to a word, Shakanaka. And it basically is a greeting that means have a beautiful life. And of course, he brought that back with him. And he added, you know, he added more to it. He said, you know, you need to have a beautiful life and travel well, my friends. It's you know, it's like if you say aloha, that kind of thing. And so my husband, Douglas Johnson Sr., and I got together with a creative artist, fantastic individual also named Kishore Hunt, and we wrote the story of Shakanaka, and we based it around the word that my father-in-law brought back, Shakanaka. And we created the story. And Kishore was just retired from Disney and did all the illustrations. It's a really huge, big book. And so it was initially targeting pre-K through third graders, but then it became so popular, not just popular, but it transcended age. So it's for all ages now. My husband and I, Doug and I self-published it independently. And then I started doing presentations of the book because the message parents were, my dad was pretty strict, but very loving and giving. But I couldn't do a lot of the things that my peers could do at the time. That just drove me more into my music and creating my music. My dad supported me. Both my parents supported my music. My dad used to take me to all of my little talent shows. So, yeah.
A couple more questions before I get you out of there, but I did want to let the audience know, if they just stumbled in, that I am speaking with the great Cherie Brown, and we're talking about her new album and her new record. And I wanted to mention that Message from the Soul is a 3-part series. Could you dive a little bit into the message and the poetry and how you set that up?
Okay, great. So what happened, about 15 years ago, a little less, we worked on the first book, Messages from the Heart. And it is a book that features true stories of women overcoming life challenges. And what I did is I wrote and produced and recorded a song for each woman in their story and dedicated to each woman. And so that CD is a part of the book. And Expansion Records released the album, the CD separately. So the second book came around 5 years later. It came out in 2020. And in 2021, it's called Messages from the Spirit. And it's featuring stories of young adult women overcoming life challenges. And I again did an album dedicated to music to those storytellers. And Expansion Records released it. So now we are in the process of releasing the third and final edition of this trilogy. It's called Messages from the Soul. And my husband, Douglas Johnson, the senior, is authoring it. And this book is it's about stories of men overcoming life challenges. Same format. I wrote music and dedicated it to each man and their story. And so, following the same format, Expansion Records released the music as the album for this book ahead of time. Messages from the Soul, the power of music. And so that's it in a nutshell. So the book we're finishing up, the music, the album just got dedicated, but there's something really special to me. I feel all my music is special, and all my collaborations with folks are special. But this one is really special to me because that whole vibe across the pond in the UK and London, I've never experienced anything like that musically. The folks are just into dancing and embracing that and the culture of that. You go to one of the clubs or the parties, they're dancing. They don't care if they don't have a partner. They're out in the middle of the floor dancing, just having a good time. And that was so awesome to see that joy. And so also what happened, I never knew my music was as popular over in the UK as it is until I went over there and did a show. My first show in the mid-2000s. And so I was overwhelmed. I performed, and they knew all my words. They were singing. It was like, what? On the stage, right? And so then I went and did the second show a few years later at Soul Weekender that is sponsored by Rob T. and Richard Serling and Expansion Records, and I opened up for the Valentine Brothers and I can't remember his name. But that was amazing. The first one was amazing. I opened up for the Valentine Brothers, Gene Corn, and the late Leon Ware, which allowed me the opportunity to work and actually collaborate on the song for the first baby music, Messages from the Heart. And so this last one, at the end of 2023, I did the Barbican Center, and it was packed, and a few thousand people. And I'm like, it was incredible. Oh my God. she was still at home with her parents and the younger sister. And we're just messing around. I'm playing the guitar. And Patricia's playing the bass. You know, she's multifaceted when it comes to it's musical, really. And so we started writing this song. And so I was like, wow, I love that song. So I called Patrice and said, you know, Patrice, why don't we finish this song for this album? This new album. So she said, yeah, we got it. And she remembered the song. And it's called Raise the Sunshine. We finished it, it's on this album. And the thing that's really fun for me is that there is a reprise version. It's Raise the Sunshine reprise. And at the very end of the song, I was actually able to tag the audio recording from over 45 years ago when we were there at her house, messing around with the song. And you hear me say, I think that was it. And you hear her say, yeah, that was. Well, that's actually on the recording.
Wow.
So, you know, working with my homegirl, right? My partner in crime in so many collaborations, but working with her, I co-wrote the single Free to Move with my son, Rebel Johnson, and another creative collective, young, one of his friends, his name is Spencer Cristobal. But here's the other thing. On Free to Move, and in fact, all of the songs you'll hear, the horn, all the horn arrangements, the trumpet solos are done by a young man named Marcus Paul. Marcus Paul is just a part. He played on, I don't know how many tracks, but he's a part of the recently Grammy awarded album by Leon Thomas. And Marcus Paul is all on that album. And so on my album, I'm working with Brian Hargrove, who's the young brother of the late Roy Hargrove. And I co-wrote songs like daughter, Maya Nicole, you know, she's a young adult. And just, I can go on and on about these musicians that I'm working with, Marcus Pettit, Michael Taggart, and then still working with my mentor who used to be with Earth, Wind & Fire, Alexander Thomas. We remain friends like my big brother. So I am really proud of this album. We spent 2 years, and it's like, if this song cannot stand by its own as a single, it can't be on the album. And I learned that from Alexander Thomas, because when he started mentoring me when I was 10 and 11 years old, he shared with me his experience working and being a part of Earth, Wind & Fire at that time. In the beginning, when they first started out, and he said, Maurice White, and they would all talk when they were creating the song, and he would say, if this song can't stand by itself as a single, it's not going to happen. And I said, you know, this is after the fact. I'm like, wow, no wonder you had all these hits coming from the same album, Shining Star, That's the Way of the World, all of these different songs on one album. And so that is what I did that with my first 2 albums on Capitol Records. The independent, I took some time off to be my mom, to be a mom, not my mom, but to be a mom and raise, you know, my children with my husband. And so, and the blessing is for me, oh my gosh, that I'm still able to do it. So I want people to go and get this music and share it, get my music, share it. Because I joke with someone, you know, this isn't a hobby for me, and it's not a dress rehearsal. And we laugh about it, but it's true. Mm-hmm. It's like, there's nothing, if I can't share the joy, then it's just bottled up, right? And so, it's one thing to work on something, and it's great, or you think it's good, or great. But if it's not getting out there for people to hear it, then, you know, I'm not able to accomplish the goal. So I'm stepping out of my comfort zone for this, out of the box. I'm dancing, you know, and we need that, right?
Right.
You know, I'm who I am, and, you know, you get who I am, and I'm grateful and thankful for that.
I so surely appreciate you, Miss Brown, because I think that your music belongs on all the platinum charts. I've admired you. I've admired your artwork, and now that I know that you do most of it yourself, you guys are independent. And I wanted to mention that we are a vinyl distributor ourselves, and so on the YouTube, while we're having our conversation, your album is linked to the YouTube page. So when anybody's watching, they can take their phone in real time while we're talking, hit your QR code and go straight to your site and pick up your music. And that's kind of like what we're trying to incorporate with artists to get them empowered to sell vinyl, stop streaming, and make some dollars, some empowerment, some generational wealth that I think the industry's taken away from them. I really appreciate you. I appreciate your independence, and as the day goes on, your music will be shared with as many people as want, and you are always welcome on the Soul Survivor Show and Radio Soul 100 FM. Thank you, Cherie Brown.
Well, thank you so much. And go to my website.
Great.
There'll be updates. You can find out how to order things and stream things at SherieBrownMusic.com. Spelled SHER1REE BrownMusic.com.
We got you. We got you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You have a great rest of your day.
You're welcome.
Mr. Harold Bell, are you with me?
Thank you. And let's, I'll get your contact information.
Oh yeah, Diane. Let's. I want to also thank Diane Hines. She set this up. I really appreciate her, and I will make sure she gets my information. I'll get my information to her, so you'll have it.
Yes.
Appreciate you.
Please, thank you. And Jen is great also. Thank you so much.
You have a good one.
You should have Super Bowl Sunday.
Mr. Bill, are you with me?
Hey, what's happening? That was great.
There we go. There we go.
Great presentation.
I am,
yes.
and
with you.
I feel great to be able to be sitting in Legends. I want to acknowledge you and ask that, as the next guest come on, I'm going to step back a little bit and let you handle the interview. But I am in the presence of royalty, folks. Mr. Harold Bell, Mr. Inside Sports, Mr. That's all you need to say, MR, and then you know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Harold Bell, the originator of Inside Sports, the first guy to bring politics, community, history to the sports table. He created Inside Sports. He interviewed everyone. He had a great relationship with all our athletes, including Muhammad Ali, my favorite athlete, who I named my son after. And he's going to share with us a little bit all day, as much as he feels like, as much as he wants to. He's going to share with us his journey and his story, and he's going to be interviewing some of the other guests we have. Today, it's about empowerment. Today, it's about disruption. Today, it's about not the big game, but it's about us taking back power. It's about us becoming who we say we're going to become. Not talking about it, but being about it. And so we're honoring Mr. Bell. We're honoring Lynn Briggs, great radio personality. We're honoring Kathy Hughes, and we're honoring Al Bell. I didn't make that up to have two Bells in here, but they're both great, so they are. Harold Bell, talk to us. Talk to us about starting Inside Sports, just starting it. What was in your mind when you decided, you know what, I'm a sports guy, I'm doing my thing, but I really want to make this into something special? What was the impetus of that?
Well, I started out in 1967 with Peter Green, a legendary radio talk show host here in Washington, D.C. I met Peter Green on the golf course. Would you believe I was a youngster going out on the weekends to help earn money by caddying, at an all-exclusive white golf course called Burning Tree Golf Course in Bethesda, Maryland. And what happened, I went out there, and first thing my homeboys told me, stay away from Petey Green, man. Harold, he liked to gamble, but stay away from Petey Green. Petey was a Petey was a hustler, but I kind of came out of that background, but I didn't listen. I was a knucklehead, and after being out on that golf course all day carrying them bags in that hot sun, I came in and I found out that Petey Green was down in the woods. Uh, he go down there and hustle with cards and crap. So I said, well, let me go down here, man, and see what Petey Green is all about. Well, I went down there deep in the woods, and there was Petey Green starting playing crap, playing cards, whatever you want to do, he would do. And Petey Green, man, beat me out of the little money that I had earned that day on that hot golf course, carrying those two bags. He had taken my money just like that. So on the way out to catch a ride home, Petey had they lend me $2, a dollar to catch the bus back to the housing project that I grew up in, and a dollar to get Little Tavern hamburgers. They were 10-cent hamburgers that you could go to the Little Tavern and get, and that would take you home. Well, as I'm coming out of the woods to go to the parking lot to find the ride to Westmoreland Circle to catch my bus home, the caddy master, Max Elvin, he called me as I was heading to the parking lot. He said, Little Bell. I turned around. I said, yes, sir. He said, come here. So I went back. He said, I got two bags for you. They are not going but 9 holes. And, you be back in before the sun goes down. So as I'm taking those two bags to the first hole, I hear somebody say, are you ready for uh, an adventure? Harold, are you ready for an adventure? And I turned around and looked, and it was the Vice President of the United States of America, Richard Nixon. So I looked at him. I said, yeah, I'm ready. Just give me the money, man. Just give me the money. But he had a partner with him by the name of William Rogers. William Rogers was a Attorney General of the United States. He was at the White House too. So we went out on that golf course, man, and I tell you, I understood exactly what the Vice President was saying was not ready for an adventure. His golf ball stayed in the woods, in the trees, more than the birds and the bees. And it was hot, man. I'm in and out of them woods. I'm in and out of them woods. And so Mr. Rogers, who was a class act, he was just smiling. He was teaching the Vice President how to play golf. So anyway, I endured that walk around the 9 holes. And when we got into the ninth hole, I'm thinking it's all over. And all of a sudden, I hear the Vice President say, let's go 9 more. I said, oh my God, he didn't say let's go 9 more holes. So end up, I went 9 more holes, and we struggled around and got to the 18th hole. It was pitch dark by then. And so the Vice President say, okay, that's enough for today. So I go in. Now I'm waiting for somebody to come out and pay me, for the 18 holes. And I turn around, it's none other than the Vice President who comes out with my money. So he gave me a nice little tip and said, we'll see you next time. And I said under my breath, I hope not. I hope not. So now I'm stuck out there in the parking lot because all my boys have gone home, man. I don't know how I'm gonna get to Westmoreland Circle to catch my bus. I said, well, one thing, the shoe shine guy is still in there, the cook is still in there, the valets who are all black are still in the clubhouse. But also there's some members still in there, but they playing cards. They're playing pinochle. So I'm standing out there, man, trying to figure out who I'm gonna get a ride with. And guess who comes out of the door? The Vice President and Mr. Rogers. And the first thing the Vice President says to me, Harold, do you need a ride? I said, yes, sir, I sure do. He said, come on. So we went out to the parking lot, man, and went up to this big black Cadillac. I ain't never seen a Cadillac that long in my life. But during this time, you have to understand the vice president didn't have any Secret Servicemen guarding him. It was just he and Attorney William Rogers. So Mr. Rogers got in the driver's side to drive, and the vice president got up front. And man, I opened that door to get in the back. It was like a hotel room. That thing was so big. It was like a hotel room. So I got back there, and we riding on into to Washington D.C. so I could catch my bus home to Northeast Washington. And suddenly the vice president turns around in his seat and started looking at me, smiling. He said, "Harold, where do you live?" I said, "Well, I live in Northeast Washington, Mr. Nixon." He said, "Okay." He said, "Do you have any brothers and sisters?" I said, "Yeah, I have three brothers." I said, "My older brother lives with my grandmother, and my brother Earl and I live with my mother in the Northeast Housing Project." He said, "Oh, okay." He said, "Where do you go to school?" I said, "I go to Spingarn High School, sir, and in Washington, D.C." So he said, "Good, good." He said, "Do you play any sports?" And boy, what did he say that for? Man, I stuck my chest out. I said, "Yes, sir. I play football, basketball, and baseball." He said, "Oh, gee." So now he's smiling. And the next question that he asked me, I wanted to crawl under the seat. He said, "Harold, tell me about your grades. How are your grades?" I said, "Oh my gosh." I said, "Sir, I'm not doing well. I'm not doing well in my grades." So he said, "Harold, let me tell you something." He said, "Playing football, basketball, and baseball is great. But man, you got to get your education. That is what you will need to get ahead in this life." So by this time, we're pulling up to Westmoreland Circle, and I get out, and he said, "Harold, we're looking forward to seeing you again the next time that we're out here at Burning Tree Golf Course." So that's how I started my relationship with the Vice President of the United States by losing all my money to Petey Green and end up caddying for the vice president accidentally. Well, as we go on now, I caddied for him several more times that year till we get to 1958, and I'm getting ready to graduate from high school. I think I am, and the vice president. I caddied for him on this particular day, and he takes me in as they usually do, and he said, "Harold, I'm getting ready to go out of the country." He said, "Now I want you to you graduate. Make sure you graduate now and go on and do great things. I'm expecting great things of you," because he was keeping up with what I was doing in sports. You know, I would come out to the golf course. He would tell me how many touchdowns I scored or whether we had won the game or not, man. So, man, I never had a white man take an interest in me. You know, I come from a home of a single mother where there was no man in the household. So we established a relationship where I felt that I could trust him. So he was going out of the country uh, because he was that in the he was with Eisenhower was the president at the time. Dwight Eisenhower was the president, and he was going out on tour of countries all over, man, being a goodwill ambassador. But what happened with me, I didn't graduate in 1958 because I got in a little trouble, and even though I was an all-star athlete and everything, man, I was just in school to play ball, and I had a coach that didn't like that either. So anyway, make a long story short, man, I ended up going to college. I got a scholarship down to Winston-Salem State University in North Carolina. I went down there with nothing but a paper bag, man, with my clothes in it. I got a buddy of mine who was already in school down there, had played football with me at Spingarn High School, but he graduated before I did and accepted a scholarship down to Winston-Salem. So I went down to Winston-Salem, and I had never been out of D.C., my whole time growing up. So we hit the road to go down to Winston-Salem to accept a scholarship. We must have been about 4 or 5 was in that car, all athletes and all football athletes to go to Winston-Salem. And Winston-Salem State changed my life around, man. It really did. playing for Big House Games, who was a legendary basketball coach. Um, he at one time during that when I was there, he was the leading uh, winner in the NCAA basketball. You know, he was that great. And once I got down there, I'm going there and think I'm gonna play football, basketball, and baseball. But once I got down there, uh, he kept me on the football field, you know, and would not let me play basketball because we had a guy down there by the name of Cleo Hill. Cleo Hill was one of the great basketball players to come out of Winston-Salem State. You guys may also know or heard of the great Earl Monroe, the Pearl they called him. The Pearl came out of Winston-Salem State. I was down there a year with Pearl, but I was down there 2 years with Cleo Hill. Cleo Hill was fabulous, man. He was so great that folks would come from all over North Carolina to see him play at Winston-Salem State. We couldn't get even in our own gym on a basketball night. White folks would have a parked all over the place, man, to come to see Cleo Hill. He was a fabulous basketball player. Cleo ended up being the number one draft choice of the St. Louis Hawks of the NBA. And the brother was so bad, man. He started the first year, but the white boys on the team did not like that, man. And they went to the coach and said they did not want Cleo Hill starting. And he was a leading scorer and number one draft choice, man. But they did not want this black kid leading them down the basketball court. So anyway, I hang around and coach, make sure that I'm trying to get my grades, and I'm flunking out, man. I am flunking out. I'm staying in the city. I'm playing cards. I'm gambling on the weekends, and not getting my grades. And this is what Coach Gaines was ahead of his time. He knew of my background, and so I really flunked out of Winston-Salem State my freshman year. And he came to the Dom. He said, "Man, you gotta get out of here. I'm gonna get you a bus ticket back to the ghetto in Washington D.C." He said, "You're not great. He said, you're not gonna get your grade." So I got one of them attitudes. I don't care. You know, I don't care. I don't bit care. But what happened, man? 2 weeks later, he came back and he said, "Your high school coach Dave Brown has sent money down here for you to go to summer school. So you can go to summer school and get your grades up so you'll be eligible to play next year." Well, man, it was hot in North Carolina that time of year, man, during the summer. And I had no place to stay. They didn't let you stay in the dorm. So Coach Gaines let me stay at his place for about 2 weeks with his wife and two children, and found me a job in one of them tobacco plants, man. Moving that tobacco, man. That was hell, boy. It was so hot. But man, I learned a lot of lessons out of that, and I was eligible to go back to Winston-Salem and pick up from there. He still wouldn't let me play basketball, which I love to play. He told me to play intramural. Go and play intramural. You ain't gonna play here right now. You gonna play this football. And so I stayed down there, man, and he tried to do the right thing by me, but I was still a knucklehead, man. You know? And I had to leave school early. I had a lot of potential because all I was looking forward to was playing in the NFL, man. You know, I was looking forward to playing the NBA. So now he done cut my NBA dream off, and then I got to look for the NFL. So I had to go home. My mother had a nervous breakdown, man. She had a mental breakdown, and I was kind of worried about my younger brother, and I had two younger brothers, and so I decided to leave school my junior year and play minor league football in Charleston, West Virginia. You know, I said, well, this will be my next step into the NBA. I mean, to the NFL, and I was catching everything they threw in my direction now. And the name of the team was the Charleston Rockets. Perry Moss, a white guy, was the head coach who ended up going to the NFL as assistant coach. But man, I was lying in the bed one night during that camp, and the man showed up, man, and they cut me, man. I couldn't believe it. I'm catching everything they throw at me, man. I guess I should have caught the balls they threw over my head, threw in the ground or whatever. But I end up getting cut, man. So here I am. I don't know which way to go. I end up going back, coming back home, and who do I run into after I get back home? I go up to the Howard Theater, the legendary Howard Theater, where all the great entertainers came to, to enhance their craft. Man, I'm talking about the Temptations, Red Fox, everybody. This is where all the brothers and sisters will hang out on the weekend. Is on the corner of the Howard Theater. And who did I run into? But Petey Green and Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye was a dear friend of mine that we grew up together.
That's what I
And
just
Petey
told you.
Green had gone to jail. Marvin had gone to the Air Force, and I had gone to
Why
college.
is it doing that?
And Marvin was up there, and we hugged and we talked about where we had been for the past few years. And Marvin said one thing: "What are you guys going to do?" He said, "Because I'm getting the hell out of Washington D.C." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, man, I got to get out of here, man. I got to get away from my people, my family." And so Petey Green looked at me. Petey said, "What you gonna do, Harold?" I said, "Man, I gotta find a job, man. That's what I need to do. I gotta find a job." So Petey Green asked me to meet him on Monday. This was a weekend up at the Howard Theater where we go hang out. And so Petey gave me a telephone number and what time to meet him on Monday morning at a place called the United Planning Organization. So on Monday, I met Petey Green at the United Planning Organization, and a guy by the name of James Banks. He was the CEO and founder of this self-help group, a nonprofit organization, and he gave me a job as a working in the community with Petey Green. We were the troubleshooters. We worked the playgrounds, the high schools, wherever there was a need where young people needed some advice and needed help. And so Petey Green got me my first job. And I got so good at doing that, working in the streets with kids. The United Planning Organization gave the DC Recreation Department a grant to hire roving leaders. Now, roving leaders were guys who worked all over the city with youth gangs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so he gave them a grant. He said, "I'm giving you this grant, but you got to add Harold Bell to your roving leader program." So Petey stayed with the United Planning Organization, and I went with the United the DC Department, man. And I tell you, man, that was an adventure. Well, Petey and I stayed in touch, and we had a luncheon day down at Ben's Chili Bowl, the world famous Ben's Chili Bowl in Washington D.C. And we decided to have lunch down there one day, and I went down there to meet Petey. And first thing Petey said, he said, "Harold, do you know Muhammad Ali is up on the campus of Howard University?" I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Come on, man, let's go up there." He said, "Man, I can't go. I got to meet with Mr. Banks." I said, "Well, man, I'm walking up there." So Howard University was about 10 or 15 minutes walk from Ben's Chili Bowl. So I walked up there, and there was Muhammad Ali on the campus, man. He must have had 200 or 300 kids around him, man. And they are listening to everything on his every word. They laughing and hollering and screaming. Oh man, this guy had their full attention. So I worked one way through the crowd, you know. I'm a street dude, so I know how to maneuver my way around. And man, I get up there and I'm almost nose to nose to him. You know, I'm not nose to nose, but I'm right where we are looking each other in the eye, man. So he's talking, man, and the kids are having a ball. So man, about 20 to 30 minutes later, man, he called it a day. He said, "Hey man, I need somebody to show me around the campus, show me around DC." He wasn't talking to me. He was talking to one of them pretty little girls that he wanted to grab on to, you know. So I grabbed him by his arm. I said, "Come on, champ, come on, go with me." And we started walking down Georgia Avenue toward the Howard Theater, the legendary Howard Theater. We're going to the place at 7th and T. So it's a beautiful sunshiny day, man. As we walking down Georgia Avenue, I turned around to look, man. Man, it was about 100 students following us down Georgia Avenue. So I said, wow. So Muhammad Ali's talking and people are honking their horns, man, and women are getting out their cars, leaving their cars parked in the middle of the street, coming over to hug Muhammad Ali and getting a kiss. And Muhammad Ali loved it, man. He was not afraid of his people, man. You know, he enjoyed that walk. And so as we walking down Georgia Avenue, he asked me, he said, Harold, what you doing, man? What are you doing? What you doing? I said, well, champ, hey, man, I'm working with at-risk children and youth gangs, man, here in the city for the Department of Recreation. He said, wow. He said, you stick with that, man. You stick with that. I got your back. You stick with that. So we get down in front of the Howard Theater, and one of my friends we call the oldest teenager named Harvey Cooper starts shadowboxing with the champ. And the champ takes off his jacket and gives it to me, and he starts shadowboxing with Harvey, man. And it was, man, he had a great time. We had a great time. I introduced Ali to my friend, a guy by the name of Sam K. He owned a record store down there in that block. And Sam brought some water out and everything for us. And I told Champ, I said, Champ, I got to go to work, man. I got a job. I said, I can't stay down here with you all day. He said, okay, well, you go, you be safe, man. So that was 1967. I didn't see Muhammad again until 5 years later, man. Now, what happened between time? I became a legend working with youth guys and at-risk children in the inner city. And Petey Green gets his own radio show on WOL. So Petey gives me 5 minutes every Sunday to talk sports on his show. So now comes 1968, and what comes? The riots in Washington, D.C. So now there I am. I'm stuck out there in the middle. And assistant chief was a guy by the name of Tillman O'Brien. He was the highest ranking black officer on the force. And the assistant chief and I became good friends because he was in my area and he would walk the streets by himself, man. He wasn't scared of nobody. So Chief and I used to hang out together. So when the riots hit, Petey Green and I are at 9th and U Street. It was a restaurant bar across the street called Chez Maurice. It was an in-crowd hangout. This is where they hang out. And Willie Wood, who played with the Green Bay Packers, the three of us had lunch at Chez Maurice the day that Dr. King was killed. We came out and stood on the corner. Petey left. I don't know where Petey went, but Willie Wood and I were out there. Willie Wood was an all-time great defensive back with the Green Bay Packers. He played on them great teams with Vince Lombardi. And Vince Lombardi said that Willie Wood was his coach on the field. But when Willie Wood came home, he had to get a second job. He wasn't making that crazy money that these athletes are making today. He had to get a second job. So he either taught school or he worked for the DC Recreation Department. That year, we were together because he worked the DC Recreation Department. And I knew Willie from high school when he was a great athlete and he was ahead of me. But we were friends. So we stayed Cooper. Well, he came by in a car, man, and he hung out the window and he hollered, hey, Earl, they just shot Doc.
I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I lost you, Doc. I lost you, Harold. Yeah, we can't hear you. Mr. Bell, can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
Testing.
There you are. There you are.
Testing.
Test.
Delana, hold on, please.
Oh my God.
Delana, can you hear me?
Am I back?
Yes, sir. You are back.
Can you hear
Yep.
me? Can you hear me? I'm back.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Okay. All right.
Can you hear
Yeah.
me? Okay.
So where you want me to pick up?
So you were at.
I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
You were talking about being getting ready to you were jogging with Ali, and then you moved it on. You were doing your you were doing your radio show with Petey Green. You just started.
Martin, talking about Dr. Martin. Yeah. And I was
Call me.
U.S. Marshal Luke C. Moore. Luke C. Moore was the #1 marshal in charge. He took over modern day, because Frederick Douglass was the first black U.S. Marshal. Luke was appointed by Richard Nixon as the U.S. Marshal in charge in Washington, D.C. Luke was a guy about town, so Willie and I knew Luke. So the three of us walked arm in arm down the U Street corridor trying to figure out what to do next. When we get to Ben's Chili Bowl, there's Ben standing over there with a couple of other businessmen, puzzled. So Luke said, well, let me go over and see what's on Ben's mind. So he went over there, and 10 minutes later, he came back and said, or Ben said, that he just got orders to close down the Chili Bowl. All businesses were supposed to be closed. So anyway, Willie gets in touch with our boss at the DC Recreation Department, and word gets back to me that the Assistant Chief Tillman O'Brien wants to see me down at the B Street headquarters, which is about 3 or 4 blocks away. So I go down to the police to see what's happening. When I walk in, the sergeant, a female sergeant, tell me, the chief is waiting for you, Mr. Bell, downstairs. So I go downstairs, man, and there are all these cops lined up, man, with rifles, gas masks, and everything. And the chief sees me and calls me over and says, Harold, we're going to need your help. And swears me in as a DC cop, man. Swears me in and gives me a badge. I said, Chief, where's the gun? He said, man, I can't give you no gun. I can't give you. You don't have no license to carry no gun. Get out of here. He said, you're going to be all right. Everybody knows you. You ain't nobody. I said, Chief, I am not worried about sisters and brothers out there. I'm worried for one.
Philip.
Dr. McKnight was a tennis player. He taught Mern, was teaching Mern how to play tennis. That's how I got hooked up with Mern. And so when I was told this by my friend, that to warn Mern to stand, to step aside, be cool, I drove up to a place called Faces Restaurant up in Northwest Washington, another in-crowd place where Murray hung out and all the politicians and stuff. So I went there one evening, and I knew Murray Burry's officer who looked out his security guy named William Stays. And Stays was sitting out in the car, he lay out there and go to sleep. So I walked up, knocked on the window to Stays. I said, Stays, I need to speak to Marion, man. I need to speak to Marion. He didn't ask me anything why I wanted to speak to Marion or nothing. He got out, went in, and brought Marion out. And I told Marion exactly what had been told to me that he needed to step back, that the feds were coming after him. So Marion being Marion Burr, he would not listen, man. So Marion said, "Oh, Harold, don't worry about it. I got it, man. I appreciate you, man. Coming to tell me that, but I got this." So that's all I could do. So Stays looked at me, shrugged his shoulders. Marion went on back in the restaurant, and of course, Stays said, "Harold, you did what you could do, man. So don't worry about it." And sure enough, about 3 or 4 months later, man, Marion was all over the news, all over the world, that the bitch had set him up. They had lured him to a hotel with a former lady friend of his. I guess he's going down there to party. Marion didn't really do no drugs, man. Marion didn't do no drugs. Marion was into the women. You know what I mean? So when they caught him in that hotel room, claiming that he was in there doing snorting cocaine, and the girl was a setup, man. She was an informant for the FBI, and they talked her into setting Marion Barry up at that hotel. And Marion, like I say, wouldn't listen to me. That's where he got a quote of. And that quote went all around the world. The bitch set me up. And that was a funny thing, man, because Marion, I'm going to tell you what he did, man. I was on the air at WST Radio when they would get ready to send him to jail, right? For that trumped up charges, man, they were sending him for. He came on my radio show on Saturday morning on Inside Sports. My roommate, Dr. Arnold McKnight, called me the night before. He said, "Harold, be on the lookout. Marion wants to come on your show before going, to Richmond to jail on Monday." And sure enough, Saturday morning, I'm sitting in there and I look out who's coming through the door, but Marion Barry and Arnold McKnight. And he comes in and comes on his show and gets on the mic. He said, "I'm going to tell you people, Harold Bell is going to tell the truth. He told me and I would not listen. And I should have listened." And he left. That was his apology to me, I guess, and went out and went to jail and did his time and came back and won the vote to be the mayor again of Washington, D.C. Boy, these black folks love some Marion Barry. I mean, I used to get on the airways and give Marion the blues and the politicians who were not doing anything but pimping the black community. But Marion, he was a good guy, man. He got a lot of people always say, man, he got me my first job when I was a little kid. He looked out for the kids and the senior citizens. So he has always been a beloved name. And, a lot of things took place. As a media personality, I went from being a legend in the street to a sports media personality. I started my talk show in 1972.
Wow.
My wife gave me the tag title for my show while having dinner the night before I was supposed to go on the air on a Sunday night at WOOK Radio. I said, "Hattie, I need a title for my new radio show." She didn't even look up from the place. She said, "Inside Sports." I said, "What? Where you get Inside Sports from?" She said, "Well, you get all the inside information when it comes to the teams, the Redskins, the Bullets, the Washington Nationals. All the guys tell you what's going on before the newspapers get it." So that's how I came up with the tag Inside Sports. But I was still a knucklehead. My attorney, a guy by the name of Derek Humphreys, told me at the studio that evening before I went on the air. He said, "Harold, trademark this name. This is gonna be a hot item." I ain't paying no attention to Derek, man. I'm getting ready to go on the air, man. I'm getting ready to be a star on the radio. I would not listen, man. And sure enough, 1978, the Washington Post, with me having their sports editor, their writers, and other sports media personalities on my talk show. Donald Graham, who I knew from the streets. See, Donald Graham, when he graduated from college, he didn't go work with the Washington Post under his mother. He defied her and became a cop. He became a cop, man. And I ran into him over in Northeast Washington off the 8th Street corridor. And he was just a nice guy, man. And we had 10-cent hamburgers at the little tavern when we would encounter each other. So the next thing I look around, Donald Graham is gone. So I asked one of the black brothers who was a cop. I said, man, what happened to the white guy, Graham? He said, oh man, his mother made him give up that gun and police shield and come to the Washington Post and take his rightful place on the newspaper. So Donald Graham went back to the newspaper. So now here I am, I'm moving along with Inside Sports. I remember even going down to the Washington Post, man, and going up there, and because I became close or friends of some of the reporters. Bill Raspberry and Dr. Gilliam were columnists down there. So it was like home, man. I go down to Washington Post, and I run into Donald Graham every now and then. He'd stop and talk to me, ask me how things were going and all that. So Donald knew that I was doing radio sports talk now, but that didn't make any difference. 1978, he took Inside Sports tag up to New York and started Inside Sports magazine. And what could I do, man? I was forewarned to copyright that title. So they went up there. They didn't last. About 2 or 3 years, they lost several $1 million thought they would go up there and be king of the media with Inside Sports magazine. But what happened, they didn't know how to transfer my sports talk show into print. These guys, Tony Kornheiser, who's on ESPN radio right now, was one of the writers that they took up to New York. Tony Kornheiser ain't never had no talent, man. He's one of the worst talk show hosts I've ever seen, but he's there with Michael Wilbon, and Michael Wilbon guides him through. But that is what happened, man. They came back to Washington, D.C., Catherine and Donald Graham and that staff that they took up to New York so they could be number one. But on the way back to Washington, D.C., guess what they did? They copyrighted my Inside Sports tag. That's what they did. They copyrighted it. And so the Inside Sports tag is owned by the Washington Post right now. But what happened, there were some other folks watching them muddle their way through the media up in New York. And there were some guys out of Connecticut, man, that came up with the idea, why don't we take this Inside Sports talk format and make it a TV format? And that's how they came up with ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. They copied my format, my radio talk show format, and made a television format out of it. That industry, the sports talk format industry today, is worth billions of dollars. Inside Sports format is all over the world today. Nobody was talking sports and doing politics at the same time but Harold Bell in 1972. But you know what? ESPN couldn't stand the heat when it came to talking politics. Their president guy, who's the president, came in and took over and told all the talk show hosts, no more politics. But they couldn't stand the heat, man. They could not stand the heat from Capitol Hill. So you watch ESPN today. They don't talk no politics unless one of the guests opens with politics. Stephen A. Smith and all them guys had to go out and establish a podcast. Freedom is not free, man. They could not talk politics on ESPN. So all them guys went out and got podcasts so they could talk sports and politics. That's right. That's something, a format that I started. Brian Gumbel, when he left NBC morning show, anchor, my mentee, James Brown, who came through me, teamed up with Brian Gumbel, and they started something called Real Sports, which was nothing but inside sports. Brian Gumbel won 37 Emmys, man, for that show. They won't even allow me to spell Emmy.
Wow. Mr. Harold Bell. Wow,
they blackballed
that's a lot.
me.
That's a lot. And, that is a lot.
Muhammad Ali put him in the trick. I became close to Muhammad Ali. I didn't see Muhammad Ali again after I ran into him up on the campus of Howard University in 1967. I didn't run into Muhammad Ali again until 1972. And how did that happen? I was in a boxing gym in the inner city called Billy Edwards Gym. This is where all the boxers come and hang out, you know. And so I'm down there one day hanging out myself, and I hear J.D. Bethea, a sports columnist for the Washington Star newspaper, talking to this attorney, Harry Barnett. And they were talking about driving up to Cleveland for a boxing exhibition that Muhammad Ali was putting on. So I said, hey, man, can I hitch a ride with you guys? They said, yeah, come on, man. So I went home and told my wife, I told Hattie, I said, Hattie, I'm gonna ride up with Harry Barnett. She knew Harry. And J.D. Bethea, they're going up to watch an exhibition fight that Muhammad Ali is putting on for Children's Hospital. So she said, okay. So I jumped in the car, man, and went up to Cleveland. And as we're going to the boxing headquarters, where all the people are staying, we go into the lobby, trying to get to our room to register the room that we had. And as we walk in the hotel, there's Muhammad Ali over in the corner, man. Got all, I guess, the media and people in the hotel, they all standing around. He entertaining them with magic tricks and stuff. We could see what was happening. So we said, hey, come on, man, let's go around this crowd and get our room, and then we come back. Well, as we try to walk around the crowd, Muhammad Ali hollers, Harold Bell, what you doing this far away from home? I almost fell to the ground like I was gonna hide. He done spotted me. I ain't seen this man in 5 years, man. So I waved, I said, hey champ. And we walked on over and registered for our room. We came back down in the lobby later. And Muhammad Ali's brother, Rahman, came over to us and said, hey, man, the champ wants to see you, man. The champ wants to see you. I didn't know where you were. I said, yeah. He said, come on, let me take you up to his suite. So we went up to his suite, man, and there were all the usual suspects in his suite. And I came in, man, he came over and grabbed me, man. Said, how you doing, man? How you doing? What you doing? I said, man, I got my own sports talk show. He said, when can I be on? Well, he was so crazy. So anyway, we reconnected, got reestablished, and that's was when he made Don King, against everybody's wishes, to be the promoter for his fight. Now, Don King was also promoting the exhibition there. And in charge of raising money for Children's Hospital, money that they never seen. And Don King convinced the champ, man. But see, Don King met Muhammad Ali through Lord Price, the great R&B singer in the Hall of Fame right now. One of the classiest guys that I've ever encountered. And the Lord hooked them up, man. And guess what? Don King said, hey, man, me and you, we are partners now. Boy, he talking about a man. Come on, man. What he did to Lloyd Price was terrible, man. Really was terrible. What he did with Mike Tyson was terrible. He told me at breakfast, I went to breakfast, J.D. Bethea had breakfast with Don King after the fight, after the exhibition fight. And he said, Harold, I want you to come on go with me and have breakfast with Don King. I'm going to do a story on him being named a promoter for Muhammad Ali. So I went to breakfast that morning in Cleveland, and joining us was Connie Hopper, who we found out was Don King's right-hand lady that he trusted. And she was there at the breakfast with her. Nice lady, man, nice lady, man. And before breakfast was over, Don King said, Harold Bell, you stick with me, baby, if we're going places. It is 2026. And nobody gone nowhere but Don King. He could have been one of the greatest, well, he is still the greatest boxing promoter of all time. But what he did to the fighters and people around him, man, was low, man. You know, there's an old saying that you can take a brother out of the ghetto, but you cannot take the ghetto out of him. And that's true with Don King, man.
Mm-hmm.
He just had to be a thug, a thief. But I got caught up in it, I ain't gonna lie. Because Don King, man, I didn't have anywhere else to turn to Bob Aaron and man, and I wasn't gonna turn to them guys. So I'm close to Don King now. So Don said, man, I'm going to New York, man, so come on up and holler at me. So I did. I called Connie. Connie remembered me, and she set up an appointment for me to see Don King to talk about sports, boxing, and what kind of role did he want me to play. So I got to New York and had a cab over to his new office. And we had a 1 o'clock meeting. Don King didn't show up to 3 o'clock. But those were the best 2 hours that I ever spent, man. Connie Hopper told me what to do and what not to do with Don King. She said, Harold, don't ever take any money from Don if you haven't earned it. Because if you do, he could treat you like one of them hoes. Say no more, baby. I don't know why Connie just took to me, man. She saved me, man. I could have come out worse with Don King, man. Don King finally came back, and I think he got in about 4 o'clock that evening. We ended up going to dinner with Robert Duran and Luis Hernandez, who was Robert Duran's interpreter, and went out and had this great meal. And man, it got late, man. I got to catch the train back. And so Luis said, Harold, come on, man, you can stay with me, man. Stay with me and my family, So I forgot what part of New York that Luis was living in.
Mr. Bell, I'm sorry, I gotta cut you off there because we up against the hour right now.
Playing high school basketball at the time. So we went to the game tonight. I think we got there the second half, man. So Luis was a first class guy, man. I got out there the next day, and Louis said, man, stick close to Don, man. Don will be the man. And sure enough, I started supporting Don King. I went on my first national television show. This is crazy.
Hey, Mr. Bell, I got to cut you off
I'm the
because we're up
man in
against the hour.
Washington sports. So Michael Wilbon is working for, writing for the Washington Post. So Michael called me and said, man, look, Harold, I'm supposed to be on this show, Geraldo Rivera show this evening. But man, you know Don King better than I do, man. So would you sit in? Could you sit in for me? Michael was scared of Don King. He wanted to do it, Don King. I knew what was going on. You know, I jumped on it. I said, yeah, I'll sit in. So I went up to Channel 9 television and waited for the show to start that evening. And man, there I was with Geraldo Rivera as the host. Jack Newfield had just written a book, The Crimes and Lies of Don King, which was a bestseller. And Burt Sugar, my man, man, I love me some Burt Sugar. He was a class act, man. I miss that brother. I miss that brother. So there I am. It's 3 against 1, man. I'm supporting Don King. And man, I still got that show that I was on. And here I am supporting Don King's right to steal from his fighters. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm doing. I'm talking about how great he is. And Muhammad Ali has given him his first break, man. So I'm with Don King all the way, man. That was a big mistake, man. Don King was about no one but Don King. So that's how it happens. Let me call it. Look like I gotta call this.
Be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again.
Oh man. Anyway, that's my story, and I hope that they got it because right now, I got to call. Hey, Smooth. Man.
Hello. Please state your name after the tone, and Google Voice will try to connect you.
Harold Bell in Washington, D.C. Gotcha. Well, I pick up where I left off and I'm going to close out. But yeah, I was on Geraldo, but Geraldo could not stand Don King. And Burt Sugar could take him or leave him. Yeah, Smooth.
Okay, I got you now. I could not hear you.
Hey, man, I must have been talking to myself all that time. I've been talking.
I was winding. I was trying to let you see me, and I was winding it down, and I was hitting my arm like time.
I couldn't see you. I couldn't see you, Smooth. I couldn't see you. I just kept talking, waiting to hear something. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Wind it down, and we going out.
Okay, baby. All right. Go on. Well, look, I enjoyed talking to you, and the Don King saga with Geraldo and Burt Sugar and Jack Newfield, man. They were right. They were right about Don King.
Can you hear me now?
I kept him when the white media was locking him and knocking him and calling him a murderer and a thief. There was little Harold Bell picking up for him. Hey, been glad. It's been great talking to you, and I hope to see you again. Thank you, Smooth, and thank you, J.R. Perry, man. I appreciate the time. Have a great day.